"I'm heading out," he said, tossing me the keys like it was nothing. "You don't mind finishing up alone, do you? She's inside if you need anything." The screen door slapped shut behind him, and I was left standing in their driveway, grease on my fingers, sweat forming beneath my collar. The morning sun was already too bright, too hot, and their old Yamaha hummed low like it knew it hadn't been touched in weeks. I knelt beside it, adjusting the idle screw, pretending the engine was more complicated than it was. Then, I heard it. Not a knock, not a call. Just a voice. Low, unsure, from the shadow of the porch behind me. "You're good with your hands." I turned. She stood at the door. His wife. Her hair was half tied up like she hadn't expected visitors, wearing a long gray shirt that might have been his. She leaned one shoulder on the frame, not smiling exactly, but not closed off either. "I mean," she said, eyes trailing over the tools in my grip. "That's a compliment. Most guys over-tighten the throttle cable." I blinked. "Thanks. Just trying to make sure it doesn't stall at stop signs. You'd be surprised how often people do stall when they should just keep going." Her voice was quieter now, meant to float between us, not land. I straightened up slowly. There was something off balance in the air. Not wrong, not right, either. Just a silence that hadn't been there when he was around. Her eyes scanned the bike, then me, then somewhere past both. "You want water?" she asked. "Sure," I said, though I wasn't thirsty. She vanished into the dimness behind the door, and I stared after her. The way she walked wasn't seductive. It was careful, like she was keeping something from spilling over. She returned. A minute later, bottle in hand, beads of condensation trickling down to her fingers. She didn't hand it to me, just set it on the porch railing. "I heard you started your own place down by the corner." "Yeah," I nodded. Small setup, still getting on my feet. She tilted her head. "People underestimate men who work with their hands. But I don't." I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened, then closed. "I'll leave you to it," she said, but she didn't move. Not for a second. Then she turned, slowly, and stepped inside. The door didn't close all the way. It swung slightly in the breeze, like an invitation left unfinished. And the only thing left in the air as the sun rose higher and the engine clicked softly beneath my hand was the faint scent of lavender and something warm, like skin after sleep. The next morning, I came by to tighten the rear suspension bolts. I hadn't been asked to. He'd already paid me. But something about the job felt unfinished. She was watering plants along the porch when I pulled up. No makeup, just a tired cardigan falling off one shoulder and her bare feet brushing dust off the floorboards. She glanced over, didn't smile, didn't speak. Just nodded once, slow, like we had a silent agreement. I worked mostly in quiet. Occasionally she'd pass behind me, the soft knock of her watering can on wood louder than any words. A few times, I caught her watching, not staring, not judging, just observing like I was a puzzle with a missing piece. By the third visit, again not requested, she brought out coffee. No offer, no question. Just a chipped blue mug set beside my tools. "You take sugar?" she asked, already knowing the answer. I didn't. She remembered. That became the rhythm. Some days I was fixing his old lawnmower, other times realigning the wheel spokes he'd bent on gravel roads. But by then, it wasn't about the machines. It was the small routines. Her eyes catching mine over the rim of a coffee mug, the silence between us thick but not heavy. Once, a sudden rain broke open above us. I ducked under the porch. She was already there, arms crossed, cardigan clinging to her wrist. "You can wait it out," she said. "I've got time." We sat on the steps, no words. Just rain on the tin roof, a dog barking somewhere down the block, and her foot tapping the rhythm of a thought she never spoke aloud. I noticed after a while, the tan line on her ring finger. No ring, just the ghost of one. I asked nothing. Once I passed the hallway on the way to wash up. A room sat open at the end, bed neatly made, dresser untouched. No photographs, just stillness. like someone used to live there and hadn't returned. You, always work this late? She asked one evening, standing at the edge of the porch light. Depends, I said, looking at her instead of the engine. On who I'm working for. She gave a half smile. Don't fix what doesn't want to. Run. I didn't know if she meant the bike or something else. That night, as I stood to leave, she reached out, quick, instinctive, and brushed a smudge of oil from my collar. Her fingers lingered a breath too long. Neither of us moved. Then she stepped back, handed me a paper towel, and said, You missed a spot. She watched me walk to the gate. I looked back once. The porch light cast her in shadow. But her silhouette stayed long after I turned the corner. The storm hit around 9 p.m. I was just closing up shop when the first thunder cracked through the valley, rattling the windows. Rain followed fast, thick sideways sheets that blurred the streetlights into pale smears of gold. I hadn't planned to go out again. But when the power flickered once, then twice, and her number lit up my phone, I didn't even think. She didn't say hello, just, He's stuck at work. Power's out here. I don't like storms. I grabbed my jacket and left. When I reached her porch, the wind had blown the swing into the wall. Her front door was open a few inches. I knocked gently, then pushed it wider. She stood in the living room, barefoot, hair loose, arms crossed tight, over a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big. The room was lit only by candlelight, the kind you don't light unless you're afraid to be alone. You didn't have to come, she said, voice low but unsteady. You called. She laughed once, soft and tired. Guess I did. I closed the door behind me. The house creaked with wind, but inside, everything else was still. I sat beside her on the couch, not close, just beside. For a while we said nothing, just watched the lightning stretch across the sky like veins of light. Then, after a long pause, she whispered, I used to love storms. She didn't look at me, just down at her hands. When I was married, we had this tiny cabin up north. No Wi-Fi, no neighbors, just trees and storms and fireplaces. I used to pretend we'd grow old there. Her voice cracked. Turns out he was just practicing for someone else's life. I didn't respond, just listened, gently. She kept going. After he left, everyone told me I'd bounce back, that I was strong, that I'd be fine. But I didn't feel fine. I felt like a test drive. Like something men borrowed until they found what they actually wanted. The silence that followed was heavy, but I didn't move to fill it. I just stayed. I'm tired of being easy to leave, she said. Tired of not knowing what it means when someone stays. I turned toward her then, gently, slowly. She didn't flinch. Her eyes met mine, wet, wide, waiting. I'm not trying to fix you, I said. Just trying to be here. She looked at me like no one ever had. Not in pity, not in longing, but like I was something safe she didn't expect. And then, like the storm eased just enough for breath to pass between us, she leaned in. We kissed, soft, almost questioning. No hunger behind it. Just an answer to a question neither of us had said aloud. It wasn't about lips or skin. It was about being seen. When we pulled apart, we didn't speak. We didn't need to. Outside, the rain softened. Inside, the quiet held us in place like we both understood. This wasn't a beginning or an ending. It was simply the moment we stopped pretending not to feel. The days that followed felt quieter, but not emptier. We didn't talk about the kiss. We didn't name what was happening. Instead, we returned to the small things. The porch coffee at 8 a.m., the garden that needed weeding, the sound of the wind chime she never remembered hanging. She left the front door unlatched more often now. I'd show up with tools I didn't need, fix things she hadn't asked about. She didn't stop me. Just watched from the steps, sleeves pushed to her elbows, eyes soft with something she still didn't want to call hope. One morning, I found her sitting barefoot on the porch, legs tucked beneath her, a single mug warming her hands. She didn't look at me right away. You ever think about leaving? She asked, not accusing. Just curious. Sometimes, I said honestly. But not lately, she nodded, a pause. Then quiet. You're young. You'll want more than this than me, I didn't answer. I just sat beside her, took the mug from her hands, and sipped. She didn't resist. That afternoon, while she was out picking up groceries, I stayed behind. Her kitchen window stuck every time you opened it. The yellow walls were chipped, old, and mismatched. I painted them. Nothing dramatic, just a soft, warm color. Cream, with a hint of sunlight. I fixed the window too. Let it glide open with one hand, like breath. When she returned, she stopped in the doorway and looked at the walls, then at me, paint smeared and quiet. You painted it, she said. Not a question. You once said you hated how it never felt like your kitchen. She leaned against the doorway, her eyes filling, not with tears, but something more fragile. Gratitude, or maybe disbelief. I didn't think you remembered. I don't forget the things that matter. She didn't cross the room. I didn't move toward her, but somehow the space between us closed anyway. That night we sat on the porch again, side by side, wrapped in the stillness of a town falling asleep. We didn't touch much, just our knees brushing now and then. Her foot nudged mine once beneath the old bench. The wind carried the scent of lilacs from a neighbor's yard. The stars came out one by one, like promises made without words. She rested her head on my shoulder, not needing permission anymore. I left my jacket on the coat hook when I went home, on purpose. And the next morning, when I returned, it was still there. A single mug sat on the windowsill, catching the light just right, and beside it our hands brushed again as we reached for the same one. Neither of us let go.